Welcome to Beginner's Guitar. This guitar course is going to teach an absolute beginner how to learn to play the guitar, having never picked one up before, to being able to play any song that they want to. So this is aimed at adults and children, although some of the songs may be a little bit old for some of the younger children, but it's absolutely fine to learn this, take this course as a child or an adult. I started when I was 35 years old. I've been playing for 10 years, and I learned using this method that I'm going to teach tonight. So it's a proven method. So first of all, what I'm going to do is, in this first introductory lesson, I'm going to talk about the guitar. This is a non-musical lesson. So for the subsequent lessons, lessons 1 through either 16 or 20 lessons, depending on how many it needs to teach all the techniques, we're going to learn one song every week, or one song every lesson. So each lesson will have one complete song from start to finish. I will teach how to play the song, the different techniques required, and then I'll do a whole entire playthrough of the song. Throughout the whole course, I'm going to explain all kinds of techniques about how to play the guitar, some tips about what to do at an open mic, how to tune the guitar, some tips on maybe singing a little bit, and some tips on Throughout the course, I'm going to be giving tips on how to play the guitar, different techniques on how to perform, how to play a song in a different key, what type of guitar to use, how maybe to play in a band, etc. So my experiences throughout the years are going to be provided to you throughout this course. And you'll find a lot of courses on the internet, on YouTube, but really I don't think any of them actually provide information and step-by-step guides from start to finish, from having never picked up a guitar to being able to play competently. So that's my aim for this course, and it's a proven technique. I know it works. Okay, so first of all I'm going to start off with not just the guitar, but I'm going to start off with what do you need to play the guitar, apart from the guitar. First thing, you need a room to practice in. So you can either practice in the lounge, depending if you've got family or kids watching TV, etc. Practice in a little study in your bedroom, but have somewhere designated to place your guitar to do practice. I'll talk about how often you need to practice later on. So you need, very importantly, you need a chair without arms, so just a simple chair. You need it without arms because arms are going to get in the way of your guitar when you're playing, and in your elbow, so just make sure you have a chair without arms. You need a music stand. So on here I've got my lesson notes, but what you're going to need is just a standard collapsible music stand. Stainless steel, you can buy it from eBay, $15, $20, and you keep that next to your guitar all the time. In this course I'm going to provide course notes for every song and all the tips and techniques, and you will have those at hand, and you will be looking at those as you practice. So you'll need a music stand, put all your course notes on there and have that available to you. Very important thing as well is a guitar stand. So again, these available from eBay or any music shop. It's just a simple stand that collapses, folds up, and you just need to put that there in the room that you practice. Put your guitar on it. The reason you need a guitar stand is because you have to leave your guitar available all the time. It always has to be out. Don't put your guitar in a bag. Don't put it under the bed in a drawer in a cupboard, because what's going to happen is every time you want to practice, you need to practice for 10 to 15 minutes. You're going to walk past the guitar, you're going to have your music ready, you're going to say, oh, let me have a practice. Pick up the guitar and start working. You don't really want to have a bag that you unzip and undo, and you have to have this big palaver to get the guitar out. Otherwise your practice sessions are going to be compromised. Okay, so as well as the guitar, we've got a chair, we've got a music stand. You need a tuner, and I'm going to show you how to use that tuner in this lesson. Your guitar will often go out of tune, so you'll need to tune up every time you play to make sure that the guitar's in tune so that you can play the chords that sound correct and your singing will be appropriate to the guitar. Tuner. You need a capo or capo. This is a device that allows you to change the pitch of your guitar. So you can increase the pitch, and this is all to do with what key you want to play a song in. It will be beneficial to have one during this course. You will definitely need one when you start going out on your own, so I suggest you buy one now. It's just a simple spring mechanism and it fits on the fretboard. And you'll see that in action later on. It's just called a capo, guitar capo, simple as that. Okay, so we've got everything we need, and now let's talk about the guitar. So what guitar will you need for this course and for ongoing? There are three types of guitar you can use. You can use a nylon string or classical guitar. You can use a steel string guitar, or they call it a folk guitar or acoustic guitar, or you can use an electric guitar. The only problem with an electric guitar is that you have to plug it in and switch it on every time, so it can be a bit of a bind to get that thing working, whereas for an acoustic or a classical guitar you can just pick it up and start playing. So I would recommend you use either a classic or a steel string. The differences being, this is the steel string. I learned for the first 2 years on a nylon string, and you can go through this whole course on a nylon string, no problem. The differences are that the steel string just has a lot more clarity and a lot more volume, so it's used more often for strumming songs and folk songs. You'll find that every singer of folk songs and country songs and rock songs will always play a steel string guitar, except for Willie Nelson, who plays a nylon string guitar. So they are in use. Nylon strings are in use, but a steel string guitar is much more common. And this is a steel string guitar. I haven't got a nylon string guitar to show you. The main differences are that the strings are much softer on a nylon string guitar and they don't produce as much volume. On a nylon string guitar, the fretboard, which is here, is wider. So it's slightly wider than this, and the strings are slightly spaced a little bit further apart. That's really the only difference. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about the steel string and how to set that up later on in another lesson. So yes, if you have a classical guitar or a nylon string guitar, please feel free to use that. If you have a steel string guitar, feel free to use that. It really makes no difference for this course, and as you get along you'll realise which one you want and go try out a few in a music shop and see if you want to buy a steel string. Okay, the fingers. What we need to do before we start the course is we have any size, any length fingernails on the right hand, doesn't matter, and cut short fingernails on the left hand. So for my fingernails, they're actually quite long at the moment. I normally trim them right down on a weekly basis, right down to the bottom. If you're a female, obviously, you may not want to do that, and you can, and I have seen many women play with slightly longer nails, maybe 2 or 3 millimeters, and without a problem. I always play with very short nails because that's what I'm used to, but you can play with slightly longer nails, but you just got to make sure that they're not too long. Now, what's going to happen here? Well, I'll talk about left-handed and right-handed. If you're right-handed, then you strum with your right hand and you put the left hand on the frets. If you're left-handed, you do it the other way around. So your right hand goes on the fretboard and your left hand does the strumming. So that means you have to get specifically a left-handed guitar, because on a left-handed guitar the strings are the other way around, which I'll explain later on. the strings are stringed differently, and see this thing called a cutout on a left-handed guitar, that will be at the bottom on that side. So just bear that in mind. Classical guitars usually don't come with this cutout thing here, so you can use a classical guitar and you just have to string it differently. So you'll use your right-handed guitar, it has a thick string on the top, and if you use the guitar left-handed, you just swap all the strings around, and again you have this thick string on the top on the left-hand side. Hopefully that makes sense. While you practice, you're going to experience a lot of finger pain in this left hand. It's absolutely inevitable. You're going to get extremely sore fingers. Now, I learned on a nylon string guitar, and the pain on one of those is less, I believe, than on a steel string guitar. What happens after about 6 months is that you grow calluses over your fingertips and the pain goes away. You actually lose all feeling in your fingertips. There's no way of getting around the pain. It will be there. You'll pick up your guitar and you'll put your fingers on the frets and the strings, and it will hurt a lot. The only way to get around that is just to work through it. Just work through the pain and it will eventually go away. On a steel string guitar for beginners, you might feel a bit more pain than on a nylon string. So if you're a bit worried about it hurting your hand, then probably best to start out with a nylon string guitar. Okay, now, cheap versus expensive guitars. I believe that pretty much a guitar is like a set of golf clubs. You can buy an expensive set of golf clubs. You can spend thousands of dollars, but it's not going to make you a better golfer. The only thing that's going to make you a better golfer is practice. You can buy an expensive guitar, but you're not going to become a better guitarist. The only way to become a better guitarist is practice. So therefore, I would suggest that you start off with just a reasonable low-price guitar, and you can buy them from eBay brand new for $100, either classical or steel string. Probably go for a name brand, something like I've got here, which I've had for 10 years. This isn't a very high-end model at all, it's a Court. You can have the Taylor guitars, you can have a Cole Clark guitar, you can have Maton guitars, all kinds of high-end guitars. So what I would suggest you do is you do the course, play the guitar, see how you like it, and if you get good at it, then buy yourself a guitar, an expensive one. Reward yourself. But just to start off with, buy something cheap. One important thing that you need to know when you're buying a guitar is if you intend to do any kind of gig later on, then you want to plug that guitar in. So you can plug acoustic guitars in, steel strings, they usually come with what's called a pickup. So on the top of my guitar here, you can see there's a little device here which controls the volume. And what happens is at the end here, that plugs in to the guitar amplifier. So if I was on stage, I would plug my guitar in and I would be able to play and my guitar would be amplified. So long-term thinking, steel string guitar, probably best to get it with a pickup. Most of them do come with pickups now. Nylon string, a lot of them don't come with pickups, and how you get around that is if you go on stage with one of those, you have a microphone that actually just sits in front of the guitar here and picks up the volume. So yes, that's down the track obviously, but you've got to start thinking ahead. If you're thinking about playing the guitar, then obviously you want to perform in the long run, and you should then think about having a guitar that can go on stage with you. Right, guitar. Let's talk about now parts of a guitar and how to hold the guitar. We're going to have a separate course, a separate lesson. I'm going to talk about how to string a steel string guitar, how to alter the action that's on a steel string guitar, I'll get to that later on, to make it more playable, how to make sure it doesn't buzz, and basically how to maintain it and make it when you're performing, then you know you can rely on that guitar. So now let's talk about the parts of a guitar. So the guitar comprises the body, which is a hollow cavity which makes the sound, which comes out of the sound hole there. The sound is activated by the strings, which are connected under tension to the bridge here. We've got a pick guard here to make sure the wood doesn't get scratched when we're strumming along with nails or plectrum. I'll talk about plectrum later on. We've got the neck of the guitar, we've got the fretboard, and on that fretboard we have frets, which are inlaid steel bars, and you press the guitar string against the bar and that changes the pitch, changes the distance between the bridge and where your finger is, and changes the length of the string and therefore changes the pitch. So pressed on that fretboard it'll make that pitch, pressed on that fretboard at the bottom it'll make a much lower pitch. The strings are then crossed over the nut here, that's called the nut, which goes on to the headstock and to which the machine heads are placed. The machine heads are used for tuning. So the machine heads are geared to small spindles and the strings are attached around the spindles. So in another lesson I'm going to teach you how to string a steel string guitar, and the principle for steel string and a nylon string are pretty similar, and I'll explain the differences at the time. Okay, so we've got the guitar, and on here you'll see I've got a little device which is a plectrum holder. Now plectrum is a small piece of plastic, triangular shaped, that you use to strum the strings. So in this course we're going to play without a plectrum because it's easier, and I'll go through a whole lesson in how to use a plectrum in a later lesson. For a nylon string guitar, probably not going to use a plectrum at all, only really for a steel string guitar. But for this course, no plectrum, fingers only, fingers, nails, and yes, okay, so that's the parts of the guitar. Right, and also at the end here we've got a connector which, as I've said before, the lead for the amplifier will plug into. That's also used to attach a strap, and then here again there's another nut there, another device to attach a strap. Your guitar may not have this second device. This one didn't. I fitted this myself. I can show you that. So that device there. So what you would do if you wanted to put a strap on, you would attach it to here, over the neck, and you just tie. Straps usually come with laces that they just tie around the nut and the headstock there. For this course we don't need a strap. We're going to sit with the guitar on our knee. You only need a strap if you're actually doing standing up performances, or sometimes if you're doing sitting down performances and you're finding the guitars slipping. So how do we hold a guitar? That's an interesting thing. I was, years ago I did a little bit of venturing into playing the guitar, and my brother used to play a classical guitar, and he had a footrest that he put his foot on, and he had to hold the guitar like this, and he had to put his legs a certain way with a certain angle, and he had to have his finger behind the fretboard and make sure everything was upright and his knee was lifted. So then when I went to my lessons I said to the guy, how do I hold a guitar? And he said, doesn't matter. And that's true, you can actually hold a guitar any way you like. So just basically you're going to sit down, you're going to have your guitar resting on your right leg, and this is what this little dip's for, so that rests on your right leg. Just rest there, and then when anywhere you feel comfortable. So you just hold it in a natural position, close to your body, reasonably close, about 100 mils away, 10 centimeters, 4 inches, a little bit closer, and at an angle that suits your arms. You don't have to have a footrest. If you feel a bit more comfortable, try putting your foot maybe on a shoebox or something to see how that helps. Maybe the guitar slipping off if it slips off. So just try things out, see how they feel, and whichever way is comfortable to you, that's how you hold the guitar. Okay, so now we've talked about holding the guitar. Let's just talk about the strings, what the notes are, and we're going to tune the guitar. And that's really it. And then we can start our next lesson, which is playing our first song. So, let's talk about the strings. Guitar has got 6 strings. And again, I'm talking always about a right-handed guitar or a right-handed player. So, if you're left-handed, just remember to turn it around, but the strings are always the same way. So the thick strings are always on the top and the thin strings are always on the bottom. Just remember that. Okay, so it has 6 strings. The thick string is on the top, and then they go down, getting thinner and thinner and thinner, down to the bottom string, which is just basically a piece of wire. So the bottom string is just a thin piece of wire. Second string is a thin piece of wire. Now the third string is wound. It's a thin piece of wire with a copper wire wound round it. Fourth string the same, fifth string the sixth string. Right, so let me explain to you what the notes are. So I'm just going to put my guitar down. Okay, so what we have here is this diagram of the guitar. So I'm showing you the 6 strings now. So what we've got is the top string, is the thick top string, is an E, it's tuned to the E note. The 5th string is the second from the top, is tuned to an A. The 4th string is tuned to a D. 3rd string is tuned to a G. 2nd string is tuned to a B. And the bottom string is tuned to an E. So both the top string and the bottom string are tuned to the same note. They are obviously an octave difference, or maybe 2 or 3 octaves difference. I'm not sure exactly what, but they're actually the same note. And the way they're designated is that the bottom string always uses a small letter to designate it, small e, and the top string uses a capital E to designate it. That's how we know that which string we're talking about. Okay? So that's the strings. So, from the top, so we number them 1 through 6. So the bottom one is always number 1. And then from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we tune them in what's called the open position. So the open position, or the open, an open string means that there's no fingers on the fretboard. So it means it's open. So there's nothing shortening the length of the string. So we've got E, B, G, D, A, and another E. Okay, now I'm not sure that this guitar's in tune or not. I specifically didn't tune it before I started this lesson, just so we could tune it together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my tuner that I showed you earlier on, and I'm going to tune the guitar. So what happens is this tuner has got a spring-loaded mechanism, and it just basically clips on to the headstock of the guitar. And then from the vibrations from the string it's playing, it automatically detects the note you're trying to play, and it tells you how far you are off that note. You then turn the head, the machine head of the specific string, and that will change the pitch of the string into the tune that you want. So let's turn this on. Okay, and what I can see is that it's just waiting now for a... They all work the same, these tuners. You really need one. You can try and tune it by ear. I'm going to show you how to do that later on. But really, you need a tuner. Tune your guitar every time you pick it up to play it. Especially with a nylon. With a nylon string guitar, it's going to go out of tune a lot more often than it will with a steel string guitar. So a steel string guitar will stay in tune, maybe a couple of weeks, and a nylon string guitar probably every day. Definitely have to tune it. The guitar will change tuning based on the weather, the humidity, the temperature. So on a very wet day, very wet cold day, your tuning may be completely out and you have to retune it because of the temperature affecting all the wood in the guitar and the strings. Okay, so let's start off with the bottom string, and we're tuning it to E. So I'm looking at my tuning device now, and I can see that it's come up with the letter E, but it's saying it's slightly left of the center, so it means it's slightly flat. So what we need to do is turn the machine head until that note is on the center, the bar is on the center, or the indicator shows green. So if you turn it too far, again it's going to go off green and it's going to go past center, and it's going to say it's now out of tune, it's too sharp, we call it. So I'm going to take it down again. Now obviously, all guitars are set up the same way, and you always string the guitar the same way. So you're always tuning the guitar tuner, the machine head, the same way to make it go flatter or sharper. So I'm not going to try and tell you what way it is because it depends on your orientation and how you see clockwise, etc. So just turn it. If it goes sharper, then you'll know to turn it the other way to make it flatter. Okay, so I'm going to do the E first. So once I get it to E, it's going to go green. I'm going to stop. Okay? Go to the second string. Make sure I've got my fingers on the second machine head. Just going to move it out of the way. On the second machine head, B, and again I can see the B is slightly flat. So I'm going to turn this in the same direction as I turned the other one. Okay, and that goes green. That's B. Then I'm going to take the G, third string. Make sure I've got my fingers on the third machine head. Tune it up. Again, this is flat till it goes green. Okay, so I've done the bottom three. Go to number 4. Take the fourth machine head, which is the one furthest away. D. Again, it's slightly flat, only ever so slightly. Okay, I've tuned it till it's green. Go to the A string, 5th string. That's already green, just a very slight amount. Okay, that's now tuned. And then go to the 6th string. And that's quite flat. So I'm going to tune that up to E. So now my guitar's in tune, so I'm just going to quickly, because by turning that string I may have affected the bottom strings now. So I'm just going to go through again and check each string in turn, just plucking it with my thumbnail in this case, just to make sure it's still going green. So the E is still slightly flat, so I'm just going to change that a little bit. Okay, that's tuned. Turn my tuner off. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. Now on a nylon string guitar, you're going to find that there's a tip I can give you, that what you should do is always tune, when you're tuning, if you go past the note and it starts getting sharp, don't tune backwards and stop. So don't loosen it and stop, because that will then have a better chance of going out of tune. So take it back beyond where the note was, make it slightly flat, and then tune up. So always tune up to the note. So if you go past the note, rewind till it's gone flat, and then tune up. So everything's now on tension. And it's both with the steel string and the nylon. They stand a much better chance of staying in tune. So now I'm going to play a chord. Sounds good. Play another chord. Sounds good. I'm happy my guitar's in tune. I can now start playing. And let me just out of interest put the guitar out of tune for you. Just take the machine heads, twist them, play the same chord. Oh my goodness. You can really tell that's out of tune. So tuning makes a huge difference. One thing to remember, that if you just haven't played your guitar and it's been sitting there for a long time, it's going to be way out of tune. So you're really going to struggle to get that thing in tune, especially on a nylon if you've had it in the cellar for 6 months, because it'll be so out of tune that this tuner will have a real problem detecting what the note is. Now on some tuners, most tuners in fact, you can actually say, if you read the instructions, you can specify what note you want to tune it to. So I suggest you in that case, if it's really out of tune, you say I want an E. So you set it to E and then you start tuning it. And then it won't have to worry about trying to detect what note it is. It'll automatically tell you if you're higher or lower. And the problem with nylon strings is that you can quite easily break a string if you tighten it too much. So anyway, that's really, just have to try your best and see what happens. Right, so that's the guitar tuned, or not in this case. So I'm going to tune this guitar, and then in the next lesson we're going to start on our first song.